Hello, weirdlings, and welcome to Weird Wikipedia. I'm Austin, and today's video is about the 3DO Interactive Multiplayer, or more simply, the 3DO. This is not on the Unusual Articles Wikipedia article, so I had to create my little own description. That being,
that's why plumbers don't wear ties.
Now sit back, relax, eat some Natchitoches meat pie, and enjoy the video. Also, I'm not going over the history of video games. That would make the video way too long. The 3DO was a home gaming console developed by the 3DO company. The concept of the 3DO was conceived by William Murray Tripp Hawkins III, an entrepreneur and the founder of Electronic Arts.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
Hawkins envisioned the 3DO not as a console produced by the 3DO company itself, but as a set of technical specifications that would be licensed to third-party companies. These specifications were drawn up by Dave Needle and R.J. McCall of the New Technologies Company. So, to put it simply, 3DO company no make 3DO. In 1993, Panasonic became the first company to release an actual 3DO console, and by the end of its production run in 97, Goldstar, Sanyo, and Creative Labs had also created 3DO consoles. The 3DO belonged to the fifth generation of gaming consoles. It was launched on November 4th, 1993 in America, March 20th, 1994 in Japan, September 1st, 1994 in Europe, and December 3rd, 1994 in South Korea. Its initial prices were $699.99 in the US, 79,800 Japanese yen, and 399,000 South Korean won. Approximately 2 million units were sold worldwide, and the best-selling game for the 3DO was Gex, with more than 1 million units sold. Online services were planned, but were never released. Time magazine named it the 1993 Product of the Year, stating, "If you think you've seen graphics, wait till you check out the jaw-dropping visuals offered by this interactive system, which is bidding to be one of the main vehicles on the data superhighway. With its CD-quality sound and 32-bit processor, the multiplayer is the most powerful video game system yet. Designed by Silicon Valley startup 3DO and made by Panasonic, the $700 device is being backed by AT&T, Time Warner, and MCA." Despite this praise and an advertisement claiming that its two biggest rivals, the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, were child's toys,
if you're not playing on a 3DO system, what are you playing with?
the 3DO received mixed to negative reviews. A combination of market oversaturation and the high price of the 3DO prevented it from achieving success enjoyed by other gaming consoles. The Panasonic M2 was planned as a successor to the 3DO, but was ultimately canceled. Our story begins on September 12th, 1991, with the establishment of the 3DO company by Trip Hopkins. The company's goal was to set a next-generation CD-based entertainment standard, which would be developed in collaboration with various partners and licensees. Essentially, the company planned to collect royalties on each console sold and on each game manufactured for it. The 3DO offered a royalty rate of $3 per game, or $6.40 in 2024, which was more favorable than the rates publishers had to pay to Nintendo and Sega. The concept of the 3DO's hardware originated from a sketch on a napkin in 1989 by Dave Needle and R.J. Michal, the designers behind the Amiga and the Atari Lynx. Hawkins was acquainted with Needle and Michal at the time and admired the design they had drafted. He believed it aligned well with his philosophy and overall architectural vision. In a December 2013 interview with Will Matthews of Retro Gamer, Hawkins stated, "Rather than me start a brand new team and start from scratch, it just made a lot of sense to join forces with them and shape what they were doing into what I wanted to be." And as stated before, the 3DO consoles were not made by the 3DO company. They just licensed the hardware to other companies, or at least the hardware design. Hawkins mentioned that they approached various electronics companies, but mostly Sony and Panasonic, which were the top two consumer electronics companies at the time. Panasonic accepted the offer, while Sony didn't, because they wanted to finish their development of the original PlayStation. Samsung, Toshiba, and AT&T acquired the hardware license, but never released any consoles to the general public. However, AT&T did showcase a prototype at the Consumer Electronics Show in January 1994. The initial launch price of the Panasonic FZ1 3DO was $699.99, which was considerably higher than competing game consoles. And to put that into perspective, somebody could buy a Super Nintendo, a Sega Genesis, and a Sega CD and have $10 to $13 remaining. On the other hand, Gold Star 3DO models debuted at $399, which is the equivalent of $856.89 in 2024. Within 6 months, the price of the FZ1 dropped to $499, or $1,071.64 in 2024. Imagine paying $1,000 for a console. As stated before, several manufacturers produced the 3DO, the Panasonic models being the best known and most common, as seen in the Plumbers Don't Wear Ties AVGN episode. Now let's talk about some licensed consoles and other products. The Panasonic FZ1 R.E.A.L 3DO interactive multiplayer was released in Japan, mainland Asia, North America, and Europe in 1993 and was the first 3DO system. And as stated before, it was originally priced at $699.99 US. The Panasonic FZ10 Real 3DO interactive multiplayer, which was available in Japan, North America, and Europe, was released on November 10th, 1994, a year after the original FZ1. This one was slimmer and lighter, with a top-loader CD tray and an internal memory manager. And it also replaced the FZ1 in Panasonic's product lineup. The Creative 3DO Blaster was a PCIca expansion card equipped with a double-speed CD-ROM drive and a controller, allowing compatible Windows-based PCs to play 3DO games. American Laser Games utilized 3DO-based hardware for several arcade titles. Finally, the DMB 800, manufactured exclusively for the Korean market, was introduced after Samsung acquired Opera hardware in 1997. This unit can support 3DO software, VCD playback, and karaoke. The 3DO had advanced hardware for its time, which we are delving into. Notably, it featured the first light synthesizer in a game console. The 3DO was and is one of the few CD-based consoles that lacked both regional lockout and copy protection, which made it easy to play bootleg games and homebrew software. However, some Japanese games remained inaccessible on non-Japanese consoles due to special kanji fonts that weren't available on the non-Japanese consoles. Moving on to more technical specifications, the 3DO was equipped with an ARM60 processor, which was a 32-bit RISC CPU running at 12.5 megahertz. NTSC versions of the 3DO offered an interpolated resolution of 640 by 480 and an actual resolution of 320 by 240 at 60 Hz, whereas PAL versions featured an interpolated resolution of 768 by 576 and an actual resolution of 384 by 288 at 50 megahertz. The 3DO's board, or chip, or whatever, was outfitted with 2 megabytes of random access memory, or RAM, and it had 2 expansion ports. The sound chip delivered 16-bit stereo audio, stereo CDDA playback, a 14.1 kilohertz sound sampling rate, and supported 4-channel Dolby Digital surround sound. Connectivity options for the 3DO included an RF connector for usage on older televisions that lacked direct video inputs, RCA connectors for new TVs at the time, and an S-video connector for high-end TVs at the time. Certain models, such as the original Panasonic 3DO FZ1, featured power cords integrated into the console, while others, like the FZ10, utilized an IEC 60320C7 figure 8 power cord that could be disconnected and reconnected at the rear of the console. For most 3D consoles were sold with a controller, AV cables, and power cables. The weird thing is, all 3DO models only had one controller port. You had to daisy chain the controllers together if you wanted multiple people playing. The controllers bundled with the FZ1 also incorporated a headphone jack and volume control. Third-party controllers were manufactured by Logitech. The World International Trading Company released an adapter which let you connect Super Nintendo controllers to the 3DO. And there was also a light gun because, of course, there was a light gun. Okay, in this section, I'm not going to provide a comprehensive list of 3DO games because that would take all day too. So, some of the most well-received games for the 3DO were ports of arcade and PC games that other consoles of the time couldn't play, such as Alone in the Dark. A notable game that was released on the 3DO was the Need for Speed. Yep, the original Need for Speed game. Long before you could absolutely rice out your Aston Martin, and I've actually seen a copy of the 3DO port of Need for Speed at a local retro game store. Obviously, I didn't buy it because I don't have a 3DO. The closest thing I have is a little emulator that has some 3DO games on it. A game that has garnered a cult following in recent years is Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and that's mainly because of its lackluster quality. The 3DO port of Super Street Fighter II Turbo was the first to feature CD quality audio. The interactive movie genre was pretty popular with the 3DO, and one of the more infamous games in that genre was Night Trap, which was one of the games that helped introduce the ESRB rating system, which is always nice. GamePro gave the 3DO a thumbs sideways review, stating, "The 3DO is the first CD-ROM system to make a real jump forward in graphics, sound, and game design." They also mentioned that it could be overshadowed by the upcoming Sega Jaguar CD and the N64. Furthermore, they also believed there were not enough games available at the time for the system to justify a purchase, and recommended that people should wait. Especially with that price. Geez, $700 in the 90s. In the early 90s, too. The 3DO was awarded with the worst console launch of 1993 by Electronic Gaming Monthly. In May 1995, Famicom Tsushin gave the 3DO a score of 26 out of 40, or 6 out of 10 for plebs like me. Retrospectives of the 3DO have criticized it for having an excess of poor quality interactive movies, like Night Trap. In 2009, IGN ranked the 3DO as the 22nd greatest console of all time. Okay, this next section's pretty short. The 3DO company designed a next-generation console that never made it to market due to various business and technological issues. While the M2 project never released because late in development, the company abandoned the console hardware business and sold the technology to Matsushita Electric Industrial Company Limited, which might sound familiar to you if you watched the video on the 3D TVs. And if you watch that, you would know that Matsushita Electric is now called Panasonic Holdings Corporation. Okay, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and that Nakatish meat pie. If you've made it this far, comment third boxcar midnight train destination Bangor, Maine. The next video will be about the 3rd Dental Battalion, so keep your eyes out for that. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell. See you next time, and make sure to live life to the fullest.